Tommy Wiseau has a new film out. It's called Best Friends, except that the R is in parentheses, so it reads like Best Fiends, which is clever, I guess. Before I start this video, just a heads up, there are like a million helicopters circling my house right now. It is very noisy. I'm not sure how to edit out helicopter noises in my editing software. I don't know if there's a helicopter edit button that I can push, but if you hear some sort of whirring noise in the background while I'm talking, it's the helicopters. Okay, so I can't talk about this film without getting into a couple specific things that happen in the story. And usually I would say if you haven't seen the movie, go away, watch that, and then come back and watch this review. But here, honestly, I don't think it really matters. This is the kind of experience that you have to see to believe. So just a bit of background on Tommy Wiseau for anyone who's not familiar. In 2003, he wrote, directed, produced, and starred in a film called The Room. And the word best used to describe this movie would be disaster piece. This is the best, worst film ever made. If you haven't seen The Room, do yourself a favour and go and check that out immediately. The Room had Tommy Wiseau in the lead role, but also starred a close friend of his that had met in acting class, Greg Sestero. Initially, this film was a bomb, but it gained a bit of a cult following of people that loved to hate it, and actually eventually became a massive hit. Even now, 15 years later, theatres around the world are playing this as their midnight screening movie. My local theatre, for example, plays this movie once a month on a Saturday, and it sells out every single month. The experience of making this movie was obviously as bonkers as the film is itself, and it inspired Greg Sestero to write a book titled The Disaster Artist: My Life Inside the Room, which was then adapted into the 2017 James Franco movie The Disaster Artist. Now Greg Sestero and Tommy Wiseau are back with Best Friends, and I'm sure you could have guessed if you've seen The Room, or even if you've seen The Disaster Artist, that this film is bad. It's so bad. Sestero and Wiseau played John and Harvey. John is a homeless man and Harvey works in a morgue, and John gets a job working in the morgue with Harvey, which is where he discovers that Harvey has been collecting the gold fillings out of the teeth of corpses for a number of years, and so they devise this plan to sell all of this gold. So the screening I went to had a Q&A with Greg Sestero before the movie, and he was talking about The Room and Best Friends, and he gave the impression that he is well aware that these films are abysmal. And yet the opening 5 minutes of Best Friends kind of suggests the opposite. Like, it actually feels like they were trying to make a good movie this time around. The opening 5 minutes are these like moody, beautifully lit scenes of John walking around. He's got cuts on his face and blood on his shoulder, and he's holding up signs asking for money, and there's this like sad cinematic music playing. Actually, there's a couple of artsy scenes in this film. Like there's one towards the end where John and Harvey are fighting, and out of nowhere, for some reason, it's in slow motion, black and white. The acting in Best Friends is terrible. Greg Sestero says it took him 4 days to write the script for this film, but I get the sense that Tommy Wiseau maybe just made his lines up on the spot. They often talk over each other, but it doesn't feel intentional. You kind of get the sense that Greg Sestero was trying to stick to the script, and every single time Tommy Wiseau went off script, he would just repeat his line again, assuming that they would edit it so that it was a coherent scene. But instead, they just kept everything in. So you have these scenes where it takes Sestero 4 or 5 attempts just to get his line out. And you're probably not going to be shocked to hear that the sound editing is awful. There are multiple scenes where they're standing beside a busy road and the traffic noises are super loud. Like, the traffic noises are louder than real life traffic noises are. Why? Why are they so loud? Should we talk about the storyline? Let's talk about the storyline. Okay, so the premise is quite basic. John and Harvey sell these gold teeth, and Harvey decides that he doesn't want them to spend all the money straight away, so he pops it in a safe that's shaped like an ATM, and then John overhears Harvey having a conversation with a mystery man called Malmo, I think, about spending $300,000 as a down payment for some mysterious purchase. Malmo is played by Paul Scheer from The League, by the way, so there's like a real-ish actor in this film. And then John gets worried that Harvey is going to spend the full $2 million because, yes, there is $2 million of cash in a safe that's like the size of a shoebox, apparently. So John and his girlfriend Tracy, with an I, devise this plan to lure Harvey out of the city, drive him far away from the safe and ditch him on the side of the road, and then drive back and crack the safe and take the money for themselves. So again, not the most complex storyline, and this film is only an hour and 48 minutes long, but it feels like at least double that because it is so slow and boring and weird. So all this goes down and Harvey figures it out and he confronts John, which leads to the black and white slow motion fight scene that I mentioned earlier, and ultimately comes to an end when Harvey falls off a cliff. And then a title card comes up that says Best Friends Volume 1. Because you guys, the story isn't over. The title card comes up, you think the film is over, and it seems like it's over, and that would be the logical point for it to be over, but it's not over. There's like 5 more minutes of these symbolism scenes. I guess there's symbolism. I actually don't really know or understand what they were symbolic of. There's a scene where Harvey gives a monologue dressed as John, and there's a scene where John lights on fire as a cowboy. Watches on. And then a title card comes up saying Volume 2 is going to be released in June, which is right now. So I googled it because I was a little bit confused about the timeline of the chapters in this fantastic story, and it looks like originally they decided that Volume 1 was going to be released in March and Volume 2 was going to be released in June, and I think in select theatres in the States that's what they actually did. Here, they've only released Volume 1. I've not heard any information about them releasing Volume 2, so I don't know whether or not they actually will, which would be such a shame to not find out who the cowboy was. If you're a fan of The Room, you might like this movie. It has a lot of the same qualities as The Room in terms of the sheer absurdity of it, but it has nowhere near the quotability or the charm. Personally, I hated this movie. I thought it was really boring, and the novelty of seeing Wiseau back on the screen wore off after about 20 minutes. I'm going to give Best Friends a 2 out of 10. I was actually going to see Incredibles 2, but traded it in for this film, and like, what was I thinking making that decision? But I still want to see The Incredibles 2, so I might have to do the double feature this week with The Incredibles 2 and also Jurassic World, which gets released here in Australia on Thursday. So potentially we'll have 2 new videos up next weekend for those films. Also, I put a post up on my Instagram recently to celebrate 200 subscribers on this channel, which is really cool. And I asked fellow YouTubers to link their channels in the comment section of that post, and the response was absolutely awesome. I'm now subscribed to a whole bunch of new channels with some really great content. If you're watching this video and you're not on my Instagram, I'll link it in the description below, but it's also going to be on the screen right here-ish if you'd like to go over and check that post out. If you're looking for some new channels to follow or some new content, definitely head over there and have a look through the comment section because there are a bunch of really awesome people on there, and I'm sure you'll find something that you absolutely love. But that's it from me today, guys. It sounds like the helicopters have finally given up. Thank you as always for watching. I will see you here for the next one.